I want to address this thing that I keep seeing pop up across the internet, asking, basically dismissing the possibility of Bernie Sanders winning this election. And I've seen it from a couple of different places, all kinds of places, black, white, male, female. I've seen a lot of people dismiss the idea that Bernie Sanders could have won. Now, in reality, it matters and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter in this point in the sense that I'm not interested in relitigating the primaries. I don't care. It's over. It's done. I'm like Bernie Sanders said today. What does it matter at this point? I'm not having this conversation at all to relitigate the primaries. That's how it doesn't matter. How it absolutely matters is if you look at the data and you look at what happened between 2012 and 2016, and you look at the states that Hillary Clinton lost versus the states that Bernie Sanders won definitively in the primaries, you start to put together a picture of what actually happened and how it was that we lost so badly. So, in a sense, it doesn't matter because it's over. I'm not relitigating the primaries, but it absolutely matters because if we don't pay attention to what the data is telling us, then we are going to miss what we need to do to actually come back from this, which we absolutely need to do. All right, the first thing is a data point that I pulled up last night, and I did not cover it. I would say I didn't even give it about 25% of what it was worth, right? So shame on me, but I was a little befuddled last night. But I want to really address the substance, the substance of this data that I'm pulling up on your screen now. In particular, this is the income breakdown of the people who voted in this election. Of course, blue for Hillary Clinton, red for Donald Trump. Last night, I addressed something that was important, which was you have a pretty standard divide here in, not standard, you have a almost equal divide within the margin of error in terms of who supported Hillary Clinton, who supported Donald Trump. I pointed out the fact that a lot of the support of Donald Trump came from the top tiers of income brackets, meaning that Donald Trump supporters are not all poor, which is very important for this conversation. However, what I didn't point out last night, which I think is the most significant, is the shift between 2012 and 2016 in the under $30,000 a year bracket. Hillary Clinton lost 16 percentage points in the people in America who voted that make less than $30,000 a year. She lost 6 points in the people who make between $30,000 and $50,000 a year. Now, the very first trope people are trying to pull out of this, they're trying to say poor white people gave Donald Trump the election. The very next sentence usually is this election was about racism and white nationalism. Now, of course, because I'm Ben Dixon, I'm going to address it all. I'm going to address the racism, nationalism, and some sexism in a minute. But 16 percentage points moving away from the lower tier and from people underneath $30,000 a year when they gave their vote to Barack Obama in 2012 suggests to me that if these people are racist, then they were willing to get over their racism enough to vote for Barack Obama in 2012, but not vote for Hillary Clinton in 2016. See, people try to always dismiss, and I hate having to give these disclaimers. God dog it, I hate giving these disclaimers, but it's necessary, right? It's necessary. It's not all about class, but damn it, it's not all about race. And it's not all about race, but it's not all about class. It's both and. And in the way that we lost the election, the people who could have swung this back for Hillary Clinton were the 16 percentage points that left the Democratic Party and went to Donald Trump. Now, the very next thing that they'll say is that, oh, they were all just sexist. Here's a problem. We must address sexism. We must address racism. But if you are so obtuse enough to leave the conversation there, either because you don't have the analytical skills to go further or because it is financially beneficial for you to stay right there, because you get a lot of clicks off of telling everybody that it is all about race and all about sexism, then you are not benefiting the progressive movement or even the neoliberal. You're hurting even the neoliberal movement. Like, I mean, what the hell do you want, right? Maybe you don't want progressivism, but at least you want the ideology that you espouse. And I'm trying to tell you that you have to dig deeper than the low-hanging fruit. People left the Democratic Party, people underneath $30,000 a year, 16 percentage points left from supporting Barack Obama in 2012 to supporting Donald Trump in 2016. If you want to say they were all racist and all sexist, then you're not qualified to be in these conversations. You're above your pay grade. And you probably make more doing your media than I do, but you're definitely still above your pay grade. It is clearly an indictment of the economic struggle that people living underneath $30,000 a year go through. That's one. And then two, the casual dismissal of the working class as something to be disdained and something to be dismissed and something to be repulsed at or repulsed with. Don't think that people did not smell that shit a mile away. Don't think that people didn't feel your condescending gaze a mile away while you sit on your high horse in your ivory tower, in your corporate suite, typing away. Some of you just are literally in the basements. You just know how to take a good profile pic and make it look like you're not in your damn basement, right? But some of you are out there making $150,000, $200,000 a year, and you made this election a referendum on a repudiation of the working class. And I'll tell you something. People will do things to spite you, even though it will ultimately hurt them. And that's human nature. So while you've been spitting on them, on the working class for the last 12 months, 18 months of this election, 24 months of this election, they showed up at the polls and said, all right, bitch, I got something for you. But the reality of it is that it is extremely painful and difficult to live underneath $30,000 a year. And it's very difficult to live underneath $30,000 a year and to look at the conversations that are being had around the country that are completely excluding you. And not only excluding your need, but dismissing you as a human being. And this is what the Democratic Party has intentionally done over the last 30 some odd years. They have tried to part ways with the working class and dismiss them, not realizing you don't have a party without the working class. That 16% that voted for, so am I going to say that we dismiss race? No, because you have some racist sons of bitches who voted expressly because they hate the fact that we had a black president for the last 8 years. It burns them to the core. And you have some who are opportunistic, childish racists who are racist just for shits and giggles, right? So racism played in. You do have some people who would never want to see a woman be president. And then you have some people who did not want to see Hillary Clinton be the first woman president. Yes, all of those things are there. But when you look at this data and you see that 16% of people who voted for Barack Obama that made less than $30,000 a year left and went to vote for Donald Trump, and you don't have the conversation about economics, you, once again, are not intellectually qualified to be in this conversation. I don't care if you're just using this as an opportunistic tool. I'm just going to conclude from now on that you are not intellectually qualified. In other words, you're dumb as F. Because what do you think is the most important to somebody making less than $30,000 a year? Oh, well, I already know. You know what? All of a sudden, I don't even care to try to explain this to that group of people, because you know what? No matter what you do, you're going to have people who ignore the fact that there are some poor Americans who are not necessarily racist. They could be. right? Not necessarily sexist, they could be, but they believe in this message from Donald Trump that he's going to bring jobs back by doing some things that hurt them in the first place, right? NAFTA hurt them in the first place. Globalization, right? This election was 100% a repudiation of Clintonism and globalization. The bad thing about it is that the Republican Party was just as complicit in bringing the world globalization, bringing America neck deep into globalization, right? And so this group of people, these 16% of people who make less than $30,000 a year that went over to Donald Trump, they're hoping that Donald Trump is actually going to do the things that he says he's going to do, which they believe is going to bring jobs back. It won't. The jobs won't come back. We're beyond that point. Donald Trump can't force companies to hire people. Donald Trump can't force companies to run models that are counter to their best bottom line. I personally don't think Donald Trump cares. I think Donald Trump wants workers to make less than the minimum wage. I think the people who left and went to the Republican Party because of some hope that they would make more money and that Donald Trump is going to help them make more money and bring jobs back and bring factory jobs back, they have put their hope in something that's going to let them down 100% without question, because all the things I just said. But what you have to realize is that they have been expecting the Democrats to do that for them, to fight for them economically, to fight for their bottom line, to fight for jobs to come back in some form or fashion, or for the love of God to invest in human capital to make it so that people can actually get retooled, get some more education without going into massive debt, right? Not everybody is waiting on the factories to come back. Some people are like, I just need some opportunity to get myself into this new economy. They were waiting on the Democrats to do that for the last 8 years. And what happened? I mean, Barack Obama basically did 90% of what Republicans would have done on the economy. That might be an overreach. I don't know if it's 90%. But he didn't do anything to change the underlying factors that put people in that position in the first place. And then to add insult to injury, right? You have commentators running around the country every single day. Don't pretend like they didn't hear your little message. Don't pretend like they didn't see your messages and hear you. Every single day on every single news station for the last 2 years, there has been the casual and intentional dismissal of poor people in America. And the labeling of all poor people in America as the only racist, when the data also bears out that if you believe people who support Donald Trump are racist, then his biggest demographics were the people making over $150,000 a year. All right, so a few more things. I don't know if this is going to show up good on this screen because it's pretty black and white, but I want to give a shout out to the gentleman from Twitter who helped put that together. And I don't know if I have it on the screen. I'm always horrible with names. I'll tweet it out. Yeah. Oh, is today the 10th? If today is the 10th, then I have it. There we go. And it's empty. Sorry, my dude. I'd have to tweet you. I'll have to retweet you. I wanted to give you credit for your graphics. But anyway, the graphic that you're looking on the screen, it shows you, and it's a horrible graphic. I'll get you a new one tomorrow. Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Ohio. It shows you the margins that Sanders won in the primaries compared to Donald Trump. Sanders in the primaries compared to Donald Trump got 54% of the Republican vote. Sanders looks like 60 some odd percent. In each of these states, Sanders thrashes Donald Trump. In the 3 states that gave Hillary Clinton the L and gave Donald Trump the win, Bernie Sanders outperformed Donald Trump in his own base. I have to point that out again. Does it matter? Yes, it matters. Because what was the message of Bernie Sanders that nobody else was talking about? What was he talking about and screaming at America for the last 18 months, last almost 24 months, that nobody else was talking about on the Democratic side? He was talking about an economic revolution to help people get on their feet, to help bring jobs back, and to do what we need to do to make sure that income inequality goes the way of the dinosaur, that more people have opportunities to pull themselves up by their own bootstraps. He was telling you exactly what America was looking for. Long story short, economic populism was the message of 2016. And the DNC and these uber wealthy and successful, well, let me take successful off the table, right? Because that's not the qualifier that I want to give. These wealthy liberal commentators dismissed so casually the importance of that message, making it seem like everything is fine because, I mean, they literally were saying this, you know, their friends are doing fine, so everything must be fine. Meanwhile, the Democratic Party loses 16% of the people who make less than $30,000 a year. And in this postmortem, in this autopsy of how we lost, you still have simpletons pushing the narrative that the only reason those people left the Democratic Party to go to Donald Trump was because they're racist. You point out to them that, no, they voted for Barack Obama. And they say, oh, okay, well, they're not racist, but they're sexist. That's all I got for you. I mean, I don't know how to make it any clearer. I don't know that you can make it any clearer. We lost because we did not accept the reality that 2016 was about economics. And you know why? Because you got some people who make just enough money to look down on somebody else. You have some marginalized people who make just enough money to look down, people with marginalized identities. Let me clarify. You have people with marginalized identity. You have women, you have men, black men, minorities, you have LGBTQ people, all these marginalized identities who do have a hard time in America. You have some who make enough money to be willing to look down on someone else because of their identity, and their identity is poverty. And you have those voices running around this election, running around the country, talking about how nothing matters but identity. Cool, identity matters. But then they dismiss the economic plight of all of the Americans who were basically living in poverty. In other words, they use their identity to undermine the plight of people. I mean, some of the 16%, they're black. Some of the 16%, they're women. Some of these 16% who make less than $30,000 a year, LGBTQ. Some of the people, so you have people with marginalized identities, but decent checkbooks, looking down on poor people, hurting people with marginalized identities. I said this before and I'll say this again. The greatest tools of oppression are people who have marginalized identities but make enough money to look down on somebody who's poor. 857-600-05. Yeah, the answer is, too long didn't read. Yes, Bernie Sanders could have won. And the reason he could have won was because he was saying and addressing the issues that matter to Americans most.